Welcome back to MuseThemes.com. Ashton here again, taking you through our newsfeed widget from Muse. Now, like the name suggests, our newsfeed widget allows you to display a live news feed on your website. And this is not limited to any particular source or social media. You can display live feeds from external sites like news sources, blogs, social feeds, or even use it to display feeds of your own. A good example of this would be something like Tumblr or pretty much any other kind of blog. The widget is universal and does not require different versions of itself for various platforms, and can be adapted to display in different kinds of layouts as we have here on our demo, from a central feed or a sidebar like this, and more that we'll see in Muse right now. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. And I'm just going to begin with a blank page here in Muse. We'll jump into our library, grab the widget, and we'll drop it right onto our page. And I'll just let it rest in the center for now. Now let's take a look inside the panel. There's a handful of settings to calibrate here, but the first thing I want to take a look at is our feed URL. This is going to be the source of the newsfeed that you want displayed on your page. It's always going to be in URL format, and there are a number of ways you can acquire one. For something like WordPress, Tumblr, Blogger, and Medium, you can actually just add a known addition to the URL to access the live feed. For example, on WordPress, you can take any blog site and add /feed to the URL, and you'll have the blog feed URL that you need for this widget. If you don't know exactly which platform a site is hosted on, you can just Google it. So let's go find one now. We're going to jump over to Google. And I'm going to do a search for Huffington Post news feed URL. There we go. And our first result here is this RSS HuffPost link. So let's give that a click. And from there we get this giant list of all of Huffington Post's different RSS feeds. So let's just pick a section here. We can click World News. And we're taken to a page where we now have access to our feed URL, and we can see it up here in the address bar. And as we can see, it ends with world-news/feed. So let's select this entire URL, copy it, and we'll head back to Muse. Let's jump back into that settings panel, and we'll paste it in our URL field. Perfect. Now that's just one example, but with this widget, the possibilities are endless. I will note that the feed URL does not have to be an RSS feed, but those will work and are pretty easy to find. You can also just find the orange RSS icon button on a page when looking for a feed URL. I definitely suggest checking out our docs page where we have tons of suggestions for finding a feed URL, as well as a full explanation of creating your own feed from your own site. So check that out for more information. Back to our widget. The next part I want to explore is this PHP file option here in the panel. Now this part is key when using this widget, as it will not function without it, but it's very simple. When you download the widget from Muse Themes, there is a PHP file included in the zip file that you can easily add in to take care of this. So we'll click Add File, and that'll bring up our Finder window. And you'll just want to navigate to wherever you've placed your widget download folder, and inside we have this news-php file. So we'll click it, and we'll load that right in. Perfect. And that's it. The reason for this is because it's not possible to display a feed without a PHP file, and because Muse doesn't have a CMS system or backend, we need to manually load one in. This is the same process that our Connect series of widgets use that enable them to display live dynamic content. So now that we've got the first order of business done, let's take a look at some of the other options we have available to us. The first one here is the unique ID, which I'm sure looks familiar to most of you. Simply make sure this has something unique typed in here if there are multiple instances of this widget on your page. A few more options here in this top section. We have article count. This does exactly what it says, determines the number of articles that will be displayed on the page, which in turn will also determine the height of the widget, as it will continue to push content downward to make space for however many you've set. Description character limit sets the number of characters in the description that are visible, which is the text that shows up directly beneath the title, which we'll see shortly when we publish here. Title link target. Now every article title that will show up on the page is a link to an actual article. So this dropdown gives you options to select how those links behave, like opening in the same tab, new tab, things like that. Beneath this, we have date language and date format, allowing you to customize just that with dozens of options to pick from. And then finally, we've got some toggle options here, giving you control over the article descriptions and publish dates if you choose to have them visible. So before we go any further, I want to give this a publish. And yes, I say publish, not browser preview, because this widget will not function in a browser preview since it's using PHP files for dynamic content. So I'm actually going to do my upload to FTP host option and get us uploaded that way. And we'll give that a second to load. And there we go. We've got our 5 articles showing as it was set. And if we click into one of them, we get a new browser tab opening immediately with our article in full view. Awesome. Let's jump back to that settings panel really quick, and I want to take a look into this styling section here. We get a drop-down section here with lots of options on how your newsfeed is styled up. Lots of things like backgrounds and borders for the entire widget container, margin settings, fonts for the titles, descriptions and dates, and so on. Most of this is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to demo them one by one, but feel free to explore, and I'm sure you'll find there is ample creative control here in this section. Now, before we close out, I want to switch gears really quick and open up another project file here, which I have, which is our live demo that we saw at the beginning of the tutorial. So let me click into the first homepage here. And we're in here just to talk about widget sizing and placement a little bit. Now, as you can see, we have 2 instances of the widget on this page. The widget can be placed wherever you want the feed to appear, and you can set the width of the widget to control how wide on the page you want the feed to appear as well. It can sit in the center of the page, as in the case of this first one, or placed far to the side to act as more of a sidebar, as we have it here with this top news section here. For height, as I mentioned before, the widget will automatically set its own height and push down content as needed to reflect the number of articles that you've designated it to show upon page load. The feed is also fully responsive and will shrink as the browser width is narrowed. So jumping back really quick to our original live browser demo. With both instances of the widget here, we can shrink our browser down, and we can see both feeds behave fully responsively, shrinking themselves as we shrink the page down, which is great. Most big news sites have several tall columns of news feeds like this, and this widget provides this to us, showing as many articles as we want, despite the fact that back in Muse, they're only displayed at a short height. So like I said, they will adjust as needed, including this gray container box surrounding it, which is pretty cool. The widget will also function great throughout multiple breakpoints, allowing you to customize the width of the widget for each breakpoint as needed for it to look proper. So that just about covers our news feed widget, guys. Don't forget to check out our docs pages at MuseThemes.com for even more detailed breakdowns of the widget's functionality, as well as where to locate more feed URLs in case you need help. As always, enjoy, and if anything else arises, don't hesitate to drop us a note in support. Thanks.